So, let's talk about something I think we've all felt. That feeling when your mind is just, well, too full. Today, we're diving into this really simple but kind of profound idea for finding clarity. And here's the twist. It's not about doing more. It's about doing a whole lot less. All right, let's get into it.
So let me just ask you straight up. Does your mind feel full? You know that feeling, right? When you're trying to focus on just one thing, maybe a project for work, or even just a conversation, but your brain feels like this super crowded room where everyone is shouting at once. Yeah, it's a feeling we all know too well.
And what's all the shouting about in that mental room? Oh, it's usually a jumble of things. Stress about that deadline coming up, fear about what might happen next week, and just this endless waterfall of thoughts. They all swirl together, making it pretty much impossible to see anything clearly. And that kind of mental noise, it isn't just distracting, it's absolutely draining.
Let's give this a name. We'll call it the overwhelmed mind. Understanding what this noise is, that's really the first step to figuring out how to quiet it down.
Now, the most important thing to get here is that this is not some kind of personal failure. Not at all. This feeling of having a full mind is a totally universal challenge. It's just a natural response to all the pressures and craziness of modern life. But listen, just because it's common doesn't mean we're stuck with it. And the way out, it actually comes from a surprisingly simple story.
And that brings us to an old parable that holds a really powerful clue. It's called The Lesson of Muddy Water, and it has so much to teach us about how to handle all our inner turmoil. So, the story starts with a student who's feeling pretty distressed. He goes up to his teacher, a guy named Mr. Harris, and he asks this question that I bet we've all asked ourselves. How do I handle a mind that's just full of troubles? How do I find any peace?
Now, instead of giving him some long, complicated lecture, Mr. Harris does something really simple. He just picks up a glass of water. But this water isn't clear at all. Nope, it's full of dirt and sediment, all swirling around, making it cloudy and murky. And he just holds it up for the student to look at.
And then he says it. Your mind is like this muddy water. Wow. The power of that metaphor, right? It hits you immediately. The student gets it right away. All that swirling dirt, that's the stress and the fear. And the murky water, that's the confusion that's stopping him from thinking clearly. Okay, so the problem has been laid out perfectly. But what's the solution? This is where we get to the heart of the lesson, the wisdom of stillness. Mr. Harris then asks a question. How can you make this water clear? What would you do? I mean, seriously, think about it. Would you try to filter it? Or maybe shake it even harder, hoping the dirt just vanishes? Maybe try to pick out every little speck of mud one by one? Our first instinct is always to do something, right? To attack the problem. But Mr. Harris, he did nothing. Absolutely nothing. He just placed the glass on a table, and he and his student sat there in silence. They just watched. The solution wasn't action. It was inaction. It was patience. It was just letting things be. And this connection is just brilliant. Think about it. When the water is all stirred up and agitated, it's opaque. You can't see through it. And it's the exact same with our minds. When we're consumed by stress and fear, our thoughts are scattered all over the place and our mind is opaque. Trying to fix it by thinking even harder is just like stirring the water more. It only makes everything worse. But what happens if you just wait? Well, that mud slowly but surely just settles to the bottom. All by itself, the water becomes transparent. And the same thing is true for our minds. When we just allow our thoughts to settle, without fighting them or getting tangled up in them, we find calm, we find clarity, we find peace. The chaos doesn't magically vanish, it just settles, and suddenly we can see right through. So, this is a beautiful story for sure, but it's also a super practical guide. Let's actually translate this into a simple technique you can use anytime, anywhere. Let's call it your 5-minute reset. It's really just 3 simple steps. First, just notice that your mind is muddy. That's it. Acknowledge the stress or the confusion, but without judging yourself for it. Second, make a conscious choice to stop stirring. That means you stop wrestling with the thoughts, you stop overanalyzing them, you stop trying to solve every problem in the world right this second. And third, and this is the hardest part, you just let it be. Just sit with the feeling for a few moments.
And how long does this take? Well, according to the original story, all you need is 5 minutes. 5. That's it. 5 minutes of just quiet observation. It's not about forcing your mind to be empty. It's just about letting the contents of your mind settle all on their own.
And that really brings us to the core of this whole thing.
The real power here isn't in wrestling your thoughts into submission or trying to force yourself to feel clear. No, it's about creating the space for clarity to just show up. The real power is in allowing the mud of your thoughts to settle all on its own.
So I'll leave you with a question to think about. The next time your mind feels like that glass of muddy water, instead of shaking it or stirring it, what might happen if you just set it down for 5 minutes? What new ideas, what solutions, or what simple peace might you discover if you just let your water settle?